Hey, boys and girls. So today what I want to do is just work on solving equations. So these 7 questions are going to be your homework, your work. Um, I just want to quickly show you some examples like these that you can use as a guide. So um, let's do 4 problems together. So number one, let's say we have 4m plus 15 equals 84. All right. So remember, my goal is to get the variable by itself. So I'm getting this m by itself. Nope, let's do this. Make that a better. There you go. I'm getting the m by itself. Now I can get rid of this 4. Now remember, this is a times 4. So to get rid of a times 4, I divide by 4. And I have to get rid of this plus 15. And to get rid of the plus 15, I have to subtract by 15. So I always find it easier to do sort of the reverse order of operations. So normally we do multiplication and division first. I'm going to do subtraction and addition first. So I'm going to get rid of this plus 15 by subtracting 15 from both sides. All right, now 15 minus 15 is 0, so I'm left with, on this left side, remember, because you can look at this equation as having 2 sides. So separated by the equal, each side is separated by the equal sign. So on this left side, I'm left with just 4m. All right, and now I have to do 84 minus 15, which is 69. So then I'm going to do divide both sides by 4m, and then that, now think about it, 4 divided by 4 is 1, so I'm left with 1m equals, I'm just going to write this as 69 over 4. Some people might be inclined to divide this and turn it into a decimal. You don't have to. You can leave it like this, just as long as it's reduced all the way, and that is reduced all the way. So you're good. All right, let's look at another one. So number 2 here, I'll draw one like that. So let's say we have 6m minus 12 plus 7 equals 42. So for this one, what's different about this is I can simplify before I start trying to get the variable by itself. I'm going to look at both sides of the equation, and this side I can see that, hey, look, I have like terms here. So I'm going to simplify those like terms. So I have the 6m, but now I have negative 12 plus 7. Negative 12 plus 7 is negative 5 equals 42. And then it becomes an equation just like number 1, right? Where I'm going to add 5 to both sides. These cancel out. I'm left with 6m on the left side equals 47. Let's divide both sides by 6, and I'm left with m equals 47 sixths. And that is reduced all the way, so you're done. All right? A couple more. Let's do one like number 3. So let's say we have 2 times 7n plus 5 equals, I don't know, let's go with 80. All right? So here, I'm going to, before I get rid of anything on any side, I'm going to simplify it. Just like on number 2, I simplified this part first. Let's simplify this by, let's distribute this 2 out. Okay, so let's do 2 times 7n is 14n. And then 2 times 5 is 10. So it's a positive 10 equals 80. So now again, this question goes back to number 1. I have 14n plus 10 equals 80. I subtract 10 from both sides. I'm left with 14n equals 70. We divide both sides by 14, and we find that n is equal to 5. Because 14 will go into 75 times. All right, let's do 2 more. Let's do one like number 4. And number 4, as you can see, there's a variable on both sides. So let's go with 15n minus 8 equals 7n plus 29. All right, so what I'm going to do here, I always like to take the variable that's on the right side and get rid of that. Some people like to make sure the variable stays positive. but I always have to take the variable from the right side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of this 7n. I'm going to get rid of this positive 7n by subtracting 7n. So if I subtract it from one side, I got to subtract it from the other side. So I subtract 7n from there. So 7n minus 7n is 0n, and 15n minus 7n is 8n. So I'm left with 8n minus 8 equals 29. Now just keep in mind, some people make the mistake and do 7n. They subtract 7n from the negative 8. But remember, those aren't like terms because one of them has a variable and one of them doesn't. So once you do this, once you get rid of the variable from the right side there, you're again back to number 1, which we should be all okay with. All right. So we get rid of this negative 8, this minus 8 by adding 8 to both sides. These cancel out. We're left with 8n equals 37, and then we divide both sides by 8 and get n equals 37 eighths. All right. Let's do one more. Let's actually scratch it. Let's do 2 more. All right. So the next one I want to do one like, let's do like number 1 or 5 or 6. They're kind of the same thing, but let's go with let's throw a negative in there. So negative 2n. Nope. Let's do this. Negative 2 times n plus 7 minus 4n plus 16 equals 3 times 6n plus 7. That's a long one, but we can manage it. So the first thing we talked about was we want to get rid of these parentheses first. Okay, so let's just write this equation out with no parentheses. So we're going to distribute. 2 times negative 2 times n is negative 2n. Negative 2 times 7 is negative 14. Then we just bring down the minus 4n plus 16 equals, now we have more parentheses. We'll do 3 times 6n is 18n, and then 3 times 7 is 21. All right. So we got rid of the parentheses. Now what I want to do is on each side I want to simplify by collecting like terms. So if you see here I have this negative 2n, and here I have a negative 4n. So in other words, that's negative 2n minus 4n. So negative 2n minus 4n. So negative 2 minus 4 is negative 6. So that gives me negative 6n. And then here I have a negative 14 plus 16. So if I write that like this, negative 14 plus 16, that equals 2, a positive 2. So I'm going to write plus 2 equals 18n plus 21. All right. So now again, as I talked about before, I always have to take the variables on the right side because now this question right here goes back to question number 4. All right. So we can make it look like question number 1 real quick. I like to get rid of the variable on the right side, so I'm just going to subtract 18n from both sides, minus 18n. These cancel out. Negative 6 minus 18 is negative 24. Nope. It's negative 24n. Let's bring down the plus 2 equals 21. We subtract 2 from both sides. These cancel out. Negative 24n equals 19. We divide both sides by negative 24, and our answer is n equals negative 19 24ths. It really doesn't matter. You can put the negative on the top or bottom, but there's our answer. Okay. Now, guys, notice that all these answers are not they're not whole numbers. It's not, with the exception of one of them, they're not, you know, negative 19 over 24 or 17 over 12, and that's okay because that's what's going to happen most of the time. All right, so don't feel that you have to turn it into a decimal or turn it into a mixed number. You can leave it just like that. Last one I want to do, guys, one like number 7. So we could do number 7 just like we've been doing the other ones. So let's go with, let's say 3/8 n plus 7/12 equals, let's go with 11/2. All right. So, so what I want to do here, and we've done this already in class, but what I want to do is I want to change these fractions into whole numbers just to make it a little bit easier for us. This way, it's get rid of the fractions. All right, we don't have to again, but I'm going to show you guys to do that. So what I want to do is I want to look at all the denominators here. So all the denominators. So I want to look at the 8, the 12, and the 2. And what I want to do is I'm going to find the least common multiple of those numbers. So the smallest number that 8, 12, and 2 go into evenly is 24. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply this whole equation by 24. So I want to do 24 times 3/8, right? So let's think about that. So that's 24 over 1 times 3/8. Now if I'm multiplying this, I can cross simplify. 8 goes into itself once, 8 goes into 24 3 times. So I have 3 times 3 equals 9 over 1, which just equals 9. Okay? So when you multiply these, so I have to do 24 times 7 twelfths, and then 24 times 11 halves. So what's always going to happen is since you're multiplying by the least common multiple, you're multiplying by number that each one of these denominators will go into evenly, your answers are going to become a whole number. Okay? Now the way we did it in class was I just kind of, instead of drawing it out like this, I just said, hey look, let's do this. 8 goes into 24 3 times. 3 times 3 is 9. So 3/8 n will become 9n. Now over here, I take this 12. 12 will go into 24 2 times. 2 times 7 is 14. So this becomes plus 14. And then we have our equal sign. That's the worst 14. Oh, Nikes. Let's get rid of 14. Make it better 14. Perfect. So now 2 goes into 24 12 times. 12 times 11 is 132. All right? So now I can solve this. This goes back to number 1. So I subtract 14 from both sides. So minus 14. And that's to give us 9n is equal to 118. 118. Is that right? 22. Yeah. All right. So now let's divide both sides by 9. And we get n is equal to 1/18 over 9. So, it's embarrassing. All right, anyway, so that's it. So just follow these examples, get these 7 equations done, box the answers, take a picture of it, and send it my way.